Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Rabbi.
You're learning Mishna Nedarim, beginning Perek Test, Chapter 9, Mishnah Aleph, Mishnah 1. Now, before we actually start the Mishnah, there is a very worthwhile introduction here in the Art Scroll Mishnah about what the discussion of the next two prakim is going to be involved in. Or actually, the next Perek. All right. And this has come up a lot of times, but there's a little bit more background here. And that is that we know there is a process called Hataras Nedarim, annulling a vow. And that typically is done either by one Chacham, who is a Baki, who is very proficient in the laws of Nedarim, or you could have three laymen, three individuals who are knowledgeable somewhat in the laws of Nedarim, and they could also annul the vow. Now, how there is a process, there's a means by which the vow is annulled. How the neder is annulled. It's not just like, they come before the chacham and he says, mutalach. It's gone.
Finished.
It doesn't work that way. There's a mechanism to it. So let me read it to you from here. The Torah provides various ways for releasing a person from his neder. One way is to use a pesach, an opening. Okay, pesach, very important word when it comes to Hataras Nedarim. The one who made the neder comes before an expert judge or a panel of three knowledgeable Jews and asks to have his neder annulled. The sage asks him whether there was something undesirable about the neder that he had not expected and that would have prevented him from making the neder had he thought of it. You get that? Basically, he made the neder and he says, has there been some kind of something undesirable about the neder come about that you didn't expect, and if you would have realized and known about it or thought about it beforehand, you never would have made the neder. If he can identify such a reason for not having made the neder, an opening has been found. On the basis of the opening, the sage can declare the neder null and void. So here they give an example here on the bottom. Okay? For example, someone made a neder that it required him to immerse daily in a mikveh. That's his neder. He's going to mikveh every day. He then finds it difficult to do so because the water is very, well, not like that, is very cold. Okay? The sage can ask him, had you realized at the time of the neder how cold the water is, would you have made the neder? If the answer is no, the sage now has an opening with which to annul the neder. So that's a Pesach. Basically, you made the neder. After you made the neder, something came up, some undesirable result came up, some undesirable, how do they call it? Something undesirable what came about the neder that he would not have expected, came about. He realized something. If he would have known, he after he made the neder, he realized the water is too cold. And if he would have realized that to begin with, he wouldn't have made the neder. That's a Pesach. That's an opening.
The door open.
So to speak, yes. Now, the annulment of a neder by a sage or three Jews works retroactively. That is, the neder is regarded as though it had never been made. This is because the opening shows that he made the neder mistakenly. Since he would not have made the neder had he thought of its unwanted result, it was based on false or incomplete information. Thus, as is the law with a mistaken neder, it is invalid. So that's the process of a Pesach. Pesach is basically, I made a mistake. If I would have realized the result that's coming about through my neder when I first made the neder, never would have made it. Now, there's another part. There's another process to annulling a neder, and that's the following. Another way to annul a neder is through charata, which means regret. That is, the person tells the sage or panel of three knowledgeable Jews that he regrets the very prohibition created by the neder. He regrets it. For example, he prohibited a certain food to himself, and he's sorry that he ever prohibited it. Basically, he's just changed his mind. He made a neder about something, and he realizes that he shouldn't have done it. Not because that this too is enough for the sage to annul the neder. The method of finding an opening, which is described above, is neither where the person does not regret the prohibition itself, or he regrets a side effect of the neder, or where rabbinic law prohibits annulment through regret. Basically, you're talking about in the first case by the Pesach. Does he regret the neder of going to that he made about going to the mikveh? No. The problem is the water is too cold. It's a side effect of the neder. Charata means he says, I regret ever making this neder about going to the mikveh. I regret it. It could be for whatever matter. Not because he just says he regrets it. You know what I mean? He took it on then, and now he decides it's really not something he wants to do. Okay, and then there's another way of annulling a vow. It is possible for a father to cancel the neder of his daughter, for a husband to cancel the nedarim of his wife. There's such a thing like that too. That has its own set of laws, and that's going to be that. And all these laws are discussed between the next couple of prakim, next 3 prakim. All right. So that is the very important introduction to this Mishnah. So let's just begin the next Mishnah. I don't know if we're going to have time to go through the whole thing. Rabbi Eliezer Reimer. Rabbi Eliezer says, we can open, meaning a Pesach. Remember a Pesach. We can make an opening for a person through the honor of his father and his mother. The Chachamim forbid. What does that mean? That means like this. He comes before the Beis Din and we ask him, if when you made the neder, you would have realized that people would shame your parents for your sin of making the Nedarim, will you still have made the neder? Making a neder, right, is not a preferred thing to do. We know from different verses, different psukim, different verses, that it is best not to make a neder. And therefore, making a neder is not really is a very unpreferable thing. They call it a sin, but the point is it's something you really should not be doing. Because if you break it, it's big trouble. It's very severe if you don't keep a neder. So really you shouldn't be making nedarim. Now, when people hear that this guy made a neder, they go to his parents and they say, look at your son. Look at your daughter. They're so lenient about making nedarim. Look, they make nedarim. They no big deal to them. They make nedarim. And you know what? Probably comes from your upbringing. Because you weren't so careful with nedarim either. So basically, he made this neder, call it innocently. But now it comes out that there is, again, he doesn't have any regret on the neder itself, but he has regret for the negative result that's coming from the neder. Something unexpected, something that he didn't know about when he made the neder. But the question is, if he would have known about it when he made the neder, would he have never made the neder? And therefore, we say to the person, if when you made the neder, you would have realized that people would shame your parents for your sin of making the nedarim, would you have still made the neder? If he answers that he would not have made the neder, we may annul it. That means the guy could say, I don't care. Or he could say, I do care. And therefore, according to Rebbe Eliezer, this is a proper Pesach. The Chachamim forbid. The Chachamim say, no, this is not a good Pesach. You know why? Because when anybody have the chutzpah to say, no, I would have done it anyway, even if my parents are shamed. The Chachamim say, no one's going to do that. The Chachamim forbid using such an opening to annul a neder, because no one would admit that he lacks concern for his parents. Therefore, even if this person does not care about his parents and their honor would not have prevented him from making the neder, he wouldn't admit it. Instead, he would lie and say that it would have prevented him, which isn't true, which means it's not really a good Pesach. They're allowing him they're telling him the neder is null, and it's really not. So therefore, the Chachamim forbid anyone to use that kind of a Pesach. So according to Rebbe Eliezer, we say a person would be ready to admit it, and therefore it is a Pesach. The Chachamim say no, a person would not, and therefore you cannot use it as a Pesach. They forbid using it as a Pesach, because if you use it and he says, oh, I never would have done it, we can't believe him. We can't be sure that he really meant it. And if he doesn't mean it, that means the neder can't be annulled. And the neder is still there. So therefore the Chachamim say it's forbidden to use that kind of a Pesach. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi. Have you seen chapter